I've been getting a lot of great email from listeners over these last few weeks, and a lot of them have ideas for monologues, and I'm trying to use them for all of our benefit. One of them came in from Brady Mawson, who got really interested in the term human resources and the way that language really works with the language of work. To really frame human beings as machines. He's looking at language like man hours and man months. And rather than looking at human beings as humans with desires and a thirst for knowledge and meaning, that this kind of terminology, the terminology of human resources, looks at people as if they were machines. And I completely agree. It's a utilitarian frame of human beings that was really invented in the industrial age when we started to look at people less as craftspeople who made stuff and more as employees of one of the few chartered monopolies that was actually allowed to create or produce any value. That's the transition I wrote about in Life Inc. and Throwing Rocks at the Google Bus, that we became employees and consumers rather than humans. And nothing against labor. I mean, labor is a great thing, and it's great to think of our work as contributing to some greater enterprise or project. That's one of the ways to experience some meaning in one's life. But it's another thing when you think of yourself or your bosses and other people think of you simply as inputs and outputs. Then you're not a human being creating value. Then you're really just a machine making stuff. And this question of the language that we use to understand people, to talk about people, and how some of our language is so anti human, it reminds me of a very true anecdote about when Ralph Nader, the consumer advocate, was on Sesame Street. There's this song on Sesame Street called The People in Your Neighborhood, and it goes something like this.
Who are the people in your neighborhood? In your neighborhood, in your neighborhood. Say, who are the people in your neighborhood? The people that you meet each day. Here comes someone now.
So listen to that lyric. A person that you meet each day. A person that you meet? See, when Ralph Nader, when he was on Sesame Street and he was supposed to sing along in that song, the idea was that they found a consumer advocate in the neighborhood, being one of the people that you know. He was conscious of the way the phrase person that you know dehumanized the person. I mean, it's been chronicled as just, oh, he didn't like the grammar. He was a stickler for grammar and wanted the appropriate grammar of a person whom you know to be used. But that's not what was going on for Ralph Nader. It's not that he cared so much about the English language being respected. It was that he wanted the person to be respected. A person is not a that. A person is a who. Not just because it's grammatically correct, but because people are not things that you know. People are human beings. So here's how it was when Ralph had to sing along. Here's how they changed it.
My name's Ralph Nader. I'm a consumer advocate.
A consumer advocate's a person in your neighborhood. In your neighborhood. In your neighborhood. A consumer advocate's a person in your neighborhood. That's a mouthful.
A person whom you meet each day.
So it may seem like a trivial point, this language that we use, but it helps us to frame how we see one another and ourselves as objects generating labor, as consumers generating purchases, as users generating data. See, when a person is an object, the only thing that matters is their outputs. But there's something else going on. There's some internal, essential experience of being human. There's this ability to resonate with the larger whole or organism of which we are a part. And honestly, focusing too hard on what's coming out, on how much volume we're getting into the assembly line as assets, it can actually degrade the quality of whatever it is that we're trying to produce. However well-intentioned we may be, however much we may want to contribute to one another and to the world, if we look at ourselves as resources, as things, only worthy in terms of our contributions, we undermine the dignity and purpose of any of our endeavors. Even in the name of service, we dehumanize ourselves. And I guess that's my way of letting you know we're going to be taking a few weeks off from Team Human. We've been going relatively nonstop for 129 weeks now. And I've also been on tour for Team Human, trying to do at least 3 podcasts or radio shows with other folks and 1 talk or class every day. It's just so hard for me to say no to a request. I think partly because I'm looking at myself in this way as only valuable in terms of how much stuff I'm getting done. But when I got back from doing a whole bunch of events in LA a couple of weeks ago, I actually felt burnout setting in for the first time. And meanwhile, I'm getting a lot of feedback from listeners that they're burning out too. We're churning out so much more content than anyone can absorb. There's an hour a week of the show, plus the written monologues on Medium, plus all the other talks and articles we've been posting. The people really need time to catch up, or even time to read the Team Human Manifesto itself, which is really kind of the central piece around which the rest of this media is hanging. So in the name of treating us all a bit more like human beings, especially Steven, our producer and engineer, we're going to pause for a breath and an upgrade of the whole Team Human production. We're going to apply some of the lessons we've learned about what makes for a real conversation as opposed to an interview, and double down on the most human and truly unique thing we've got, which is this experience of rapport and solidarity that we're offering here. So please, just as we will, please use these weeks to catch up. Consider diving into the archives of the show, or even into the Team Human book or the audio book, which I read myself, and you'll see us all back here, more human than ever, in just a few weeks.
I'm Brewster Kale, and I'm on Team Human.
I'm Anthony Cabral, and I'm on Team Human.
I'm Manoush Samarodi, and I am on Team Human.
I'm Nora Bateson, and I'm on Team Human.
I'm Molly Wright Steenson, and I'm on Team Human.
I'm delighted to close out this season of Team Human with a dear friend, Clive Thompson. Clive writes about science and technology for the New York Times and other magazines, but his real talent has always been reporting from the intersection of technology and culture. Unlike me, he's a real journalist with the capacity to do legwork and reporting, but he's also a keen observer of human beings and the way different media and technological environments change the way we see ourselves and our purpose. He's just published a book, Coders, The Making of a New Tribe and the Remaking of Our World. And he brings a critical eye and a great sense of hope to what it is that coders can do, especially if they remember that they're recoding not just machines, but coding the landscape in which human beings are going to be operating and living for the next century.